Hello everyone and welcome to my complete and updated Nilou guide. In this video, I'm gonna cover everything there is to know about Nilou, including her kit, talents, weapons, and so much more. So keep watching till the end so that you don't miss out on any crucial information that I'm gonna be providing you in this video. Let's start. Let's begin this guide with a character overview. Nilou is a niche character that specializes in bloom reactions and has conditional passives that buff bloom reaction and takes it to another level to maximize its damage. Talents: normal attack. She does a 3-hit combo with the sword that she wields to deal physical damage. Although it is very pretty to look at, but it isn't that helpful when it comes to her utility. Elemental skill: the heart of her kit, and it has 2 variations. Once you hit the elemental skill button, you will enter something called the pirouette state, where you can do one of the 2 things. 1. Press elemental skill again 3 times, or press normal attack 3 times. Now, if you do press her elemental skill again 3 times, it will do 3 instances of hydro damage considered as elemental skill damage and end the pirouette state and create something called the tranquility aura, which stays on field even after Nilou leaves the field. Basically, the aura follows the active character. It has a 12-second duration and ticks every half a second. It applies hydro every 2 seconds. This variation of her elemental skill would allow Nilou to play in a bloom team like a off-field role. She will play an off-field role if you use this variation. Now, the other variation is that if you press her normal attack 3 times after pressing her elemental skill, she will do 3 instances of hydro damage considered as elemental skill damage and end the pirouette state. Then she will enter another state called the lunar prayer, where her normal attacks get hydro infusion. This is where she does a 3-hit combos where the 3rd hit will release a hydro wave that will deal damage as it moves forward. This hydro infusion has an 8-second duration and it would end if she is swapped off. This variation of her elemental skill would allow Nilou to play more of a on-field role in certain team comps. Her kit has a normal ICDs and the hydro infusion, like I said, is considered as elemental skill damage and not normal attack damage. So she can proc Yelan's and Xingqiu's rain swords, but doesn't work with Beidou. Now let us talk about particle generation. On skill activation, she gains 1 to 2 particles, and for the next 3 attacks that she will do, she will gain 1 particle. Now let us talk about her elemental burst, a straightforward ability that deals 2 instances of damage. On cast, it will do a AoE hydro damage and apply something called the lingering eon, and it will explode after a set interval to deal hydro damage to the enemies marked with lingering eon. This has a very high scaling and applies hydro. So this ability is mainly used in a bloom comp for her hydro application. Ascension 1 passive. For this passive to be active, it requires Nilou's teams to have only hydro or dendro. If this requirement is fulfilled and she completes the 3rd step of her elemental skill, it will grant all party members something called the Golden Chalice's Bounty. This effect stays for 30 seconds. In this effect, the elemental mastery of all characters is increased by 100 for 10 seconds whenever they are hit with dendro attacks or dendro cores. So dendro cores, when they explode, they do dendro damage, so this part can be easily procced. Furthermore, it will replace all the dendro cores with something called the bountiful cores, when bloom is triggered. Now, these bountiful cores are different from normal dendro cores. These cores will have a larger AoE, explode a lot faster, and you cannot trigger hyper bloom or burgeon with them. The Ascension 4 passive, another important part of her kit. For every 1000 HP that Nilou has, above 30,000 HP, it would increase the damage of bountiful cores created by characters under the Golden Chalice's bounty by 9%. The damage of the bountiful cores is increased by 9%, maximum 400%. So which is like about 75,000 max HP for Nilou. This makes a triple HP a good variation when it comes to building Nilou, and you can have elemental mastery on other characters that are going to be triggering. Talking about talent priority, you mainly want to level up her elemental skill and then her elemental burst and leave normal attack at level 1. Artifacts. Well, there are one of two ways where you can build Nilou: a bloom variation or a traditional hydro DPS, among which the former rather than the latter is better, that is the bloom variation. For a bloom variation Nilou, you want a HP percent timepiece, HP percent goblets, and HP percent circlets. Now, there are scenarios where people do run energy recharge timepieces. That is when you don't have enough energy recharge and you are like using Nilou's elemental burst. If you don't care about Nilou's elemental burst and you just want to utilize her passives and the bountiful cores, you mainly want to go triple HP percent. Substats, well, energy recharge, elemental mastery, and HP percent. Now for the artifact sets that you want to run on Nilou, well, to be honest, I usually recommend people to go a two-piece combos. But if you do have a 4-piece deep wood and there is nobody using a 4-piece deep wood in your dendro theme comp, you can run 4-piece deep wood on Nilou, and it will like help with the dendro resistance decrease. Or if you don't want to run 4-piece deep wood, you can also run the 4-piece tenacity of the Millelith. It would give your teammates an attack buff, and the 2-piece set would give Nilou 20% HP. If you don't consider the 4-piece sets a viable option, or for some reason you don't have them, 2-piece mix and matching is another good way. You can mix and match like 2-piece tenacity of the Millelith, 2-piece emblem of severed fate, 2-piece elemental mastery sets, 2-piece heart of depth, 2-piece noblesse, and the 2-piece glow set. The glow set is the newest set in this version. Personally, I would recommend a 2-piece tenacity of the Millelith with a 2-piece glow set. You can mix and match these two sets and you would gain around like 40% HP. That is nothing to laugh at for Nilou. So basically what I'm trying to say is that triple HP on Nilou and 2-piece sets of HP percent on Nilou. And for the elemental mastery would go on other characters that are proccing bloom. Now for a non-bloom variation Nilou, you mainly want HP percent or energy recharge timepiece, hydro damage goblet, and a crit circlet. Now energy recharge is another option for the timepiece that you can run, but HP percent is generally better. And I would recommend you gain energy recharge through the substats or another Favonius Wheeler that can funnel Nilou particles. For the substats, you mainly want to go for crit, HP percent, energy recharge, and elemental mastery if you are planning on running Nilou in like a vaporized team. For the 4-piece sets, you mainly want to go for a 4-piece emblem of severed fate for a nuke build Nilou. This is where you utilize her elemental burst to gain one big damage number. Now another niche set would be the 4-piece lava walker. It is very niche and can be used for vaporized set. Theoretically speaking, I am not sure about this, but you can do run like the 4-piece nymph's dream. Okay, this should work With Nilou, although she doesn't need attack, but the hydro damage bonus that it provides with the 2-piece sets and the 4-piece sets would be good. The 2-piece sets for a non-bloom Nilou would be like 2-piece Heart of Depth with 2-piece Glow set, with 2-piece Nymph's Dream, with 2-piece Tenacity of the Millilith, with 2-piece Noblesse. Like any of these sets, just mix and match depending upon what better substats you have on. Talking about energy recharge for Nilou, well, it depends on how often you want to use her elemental burst. If you do plan on using Nilou's elemental burst every rotation, you mainly want like around 160 to 200% energy recharge, and to burst every rotation you want like about 120 to 140% energy recharge. It can be higher or lower based upon your team comp, so just keep that point in mind. Now, Nilou's weapons. There are a few points that you need to keep in mind when choosing a weapon for Nilou. Those points are: attack is completely useless for Nilou, and the damage that she does from Hydro Infusion are skill damage, not normal attack damage. For the 3-star weapon choices, we have the Dark Iron Sword that would give Nilou Elemental Mastery, a very free-to-play friendly choice. Okay, if you are lacking on energy recharge, we have something called the Skyrider Sword, a 3-star weapon that will provide you with the energy recharge that you need. Now, a 3-star weapon for a non-bloom variation of Nilou would be the Harbinger of Dawn for the crit stats that it provides you with. The 4-star weapon choices would include something like the Favonius, Festering Desire, and Sacrificial Sword, all of them providing energy recharge. Energy recharge is something that Nilou needs if you're like going to burst on every rotation. But still, energy recharge is a good option, especially if you're going for Favonius, as it has great support capabilities for herself and for like the teammates that have high energy cost burst. The Sacrificial Sword will give you more E procs, and the Festering Desire, well, it does have a very nice passive. Now, there is another weapon that I'm not gonna recommend, but it is usable. That is the Sapwood Blade. Energy recharge, and it does give Elemental Mastery through the buff, like from the passive, but well, it does get little inconvenient when you are like trying to get the Elemental Mastery buff. The 4-star gacha weapon, that is the Zyfox Moonlight, providing you with Elemental Mastery and energy recharge through the passive, is another good option on Nilou. Now there is another weapon that you can run, that is the craftable weapon Iron Sting. Elemental Mastery stats and elemental damage bonus through the passive. A good option, but not suited for her playstyle, but if you want, you can just run it if you have an extra lying around. For a non-bloom variation, you can run the Black Sword or the Black Cliff for the crit stats that it provides you with. 5-star weapon choices would include her best in slot, the Key of Kaj Nitsu. I hope I said that correct. It is the highest HP stat weapon, and it converts HP into Elemental Mastery. That is again a good passive. It's her best in slot, so of course it will fit her playstyle. If you want more of an offensive weapon, the Primordial Jade Cutter, Haran Geppaku Futsu, and the Mist Splitter, all for a non-bloom and a hydro damage focused Nilou build. Okay, these weapons are great if you are not planning on running Nilou in a bloom comp. Now for the playstyle. Well, Nilou is a bloom focused character. Okay, so you mainly want to build tons of HP % due to her passives and use her elemental skill 3 times and just swap off after getting the aura. That is mainly how you want to play Nilou in a bloom comp, and bloom comp is the variation that I'm going to be like emphasizing a lot in this video, because I feel like that is her main role to fit perfectly in a bloom comp. Also, I do recommend you have enough Dendro application in your team, because like see, if you apply Dendro first and then apply Hydro, you will gain 2 Dendro cores. But if you apply Dendro on an enemy that is affected with Hydro, that is Hydro first and then Dendro to trigger Bloom, it will only trigger one core. Just try to keep this point in mind. Constellation. C0 Nilou is perfectly fine and doesn't need constellations to shine. Okay. Constellation 1. The third hit of her Sword Dance would get a damage increase, and the Tranquility Aura that she creates gets a 6% duration extension. Constellation 2. Another good constellation for Nilou. The characters affected by the Golden Chalice's bounty deal hydro damage. Okay, when these characters deal hydro damage, the opponent's hydro resistance would be decreased by 35% for 10 seconds. And after triggering a Bloom reaction that deals damage to the opponents, their Dendro resistance would be decreased by 35% for 10 seconds. This is another good constellation that Nilou has. Constellation 3 will give her +3 levels for her elemental burst. Constellation 4. It gives her about like 50% damage bonus to her elemental burst and gives her 15 energy when her third dance steps hit the enemy. This is a good constellation if your Nilou suffers from energy recharge problems, this constellation will solve it. Constellation 5. A +3 levels for your elemental skill. Constellation 6. It gives Nilou additional crit stats based off of her max HP. That's about like 30 crit rate and 60 crit damage. This can be achieved at like 50k HP. So a fairly nice constellation. Team comps. Her best team comp is the Bloom comp. Okay, the Bloom comp with Nilou is the most broken team comp in Genshin Impact. I'm also going to mention other niche comps, but yeah, I want you to build a Bloom comp for Nilou. Okay, my personal recommendation. The Bloom comp would include Nilou with another Hydro character and 2 Dendro characters. The Hydro character can be Kokomi, Barbara, Xingqiu, and Yelan, or even maybe a burst support Ayato if you have one. Kokomi and Barbara are for like heals and slower hydro application. On the other hand, Xingqiu and Yelan would be a faster hydro application with more damage, more hydro damage. Okay, for the Dendro characters, Dendro main character, Kale, Nahida, Alhaitham, Yao Yao, and I don't know about Baizo, but maybe even Baizo can fit into this comp. But I mainly recommend you have for free-to-play players, Dendro main character and Kale is good. But if you do plan on pulling for Nahida, do place Nahida in this team comp. Okay, Nahida is a great character when it comes to blooms. There is this points that you need to keep in mind when you're like building a bloom comp. Okay, you need a healer first. Okay, if you have 2 Hydro and 2 Dendro, it would unlock the Hydro and Dendro resonance. That is another thing for Nilou, and basically in bloom comps, both of those resonance are good. Now let us talk about the other non-recommended ones. Okay, the first one that I'm going to talk about is a version or a hyper bloom comp. Nilou is the Hydro applicator in these comps, and a Dendro is a must if you want Dendro cores. And then you can pair another Hydro or another Dendro if you have lack of that application. And then for the last slot, you mainly want a Toma or Shangling if you're proccing Virgin, or Cookie or even Raiden if you're planning on proccing Hyper Bloom. Okay. Another niche comp would be the Freeze comp. Nilou is an on-field character using the Blizzard Strayer for the crit rate and dealing damage to the frozen enemies. This is like a traditional Hydro DPS working on a Freeze comp. That is another way where you can plan Nilou if you want. The other comp that I'm going to talk about is the Vape comp, the Vaporize comp, where she basically takes up Child's role as a Hydro DPS or a Hydro applicator for characters like Shangling. fifth team comp that I'm gonna mention is a mono hydro comp, where Nilou is paired with 2 more hydro characters and a viridescent shredder like Kazuha or even Sucrose. This comp is very niche and you won't like get a lot of damage output for this, but it is a fun comp to play. Overall, I recommend you go for a bloom comp for Nilou, as it is the only comp that is good and Nilou just like shines very brightly in those team comps. And for those who pulled for Nahida, I have a guide made for her as well. If you do plan on checking it out, link would be in the description, or you just have it on the screen right now. That's all for this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.